The letter came certified, sealed in an envelope thicker than the soil in my south field after a week of rain. Effective immediately, your land is no longer eligible for partnership under the HorizonAg Sustainability Program. No warning. No explanation beyond, quote, failure to meet projected efficiency targets. They didn't call. They didn't even drive the 3 miles it would have taken to say it to my face. My name is Claire Hollis, third-generation farmer, the last Hollis on this land. My grandfather built this farm with a mule and 2 calloused hands. My father kept it alive through 2 droughts, 1 recession, and a corporate buyout that nearly broke his back. I took over 6 years ago. I didn't marry. I didn't leave. I stayed with the fields, the soil, and the silence, and I turned the old ways into something new. Regenerative practices, cover crops, crop rotation tuned like music. I didn't use synthetic fertilizers. I didn't follow HorizonAg's input strategy. But my soil was richer than it had been in 30 years, and my yield was strong. Too strong, maybe. Too independent. I didn't fit the model. HorizonAg owned most of the land around here now, not on paper, but in practice. They leased equipment, supplied seed, dictated crop schedules from air-conditioned offices in St. Louis. The partnership program was a leash, dressed up like a favor. Farmers got support. In return, Horizon got data, loyalty, and total control, except me. I was the only one left in Boone County not playing by their book. Now I wasn't playing at all. When I called my rep, a man named Preston who used to be polite before he got promoted, he said, "I'm sorry, Claire. It's just business. You've been non-compliant with projected protocol for 3 quarters. You mean I grew too much food with too little help? We're moving toward automation-aligned metrics. You mean I didn't need you?" He sighed. "Your model isn't scalable. It's not a fit anymore." That night, I sat on my porch, watching the sun slide behind the wheat like it was dipping into a river of gold. I thought about my father, who died with dirt under his nails and pride in his spine. He never trusted the suits. He said, "They'll give you a deal too good to be true, and then they'll raise the rent on your own shadow." I didn't feel rage. Not yet. What I felt was quieter, heavier. But even as the silence wrapped around me, I knew one thing. If they thought I was done farming, they hadn't seen what I could grow without them. 2 days after the letter, they shut off my grain dryer. It wasn't HorizonAg directly. They don't like to get their hands dirty, but the lease on the equipment was through one of their subsidiaries. I missed the fine print. Or maybe it changed without notice. Either way, when I went to fire it up, the screen blinked red. Access denied. System deactivated. I stood there in the heat, sweat sliding down my spine, listening to the empty hum of the machine I couldn't use. That night, I pulled my father's notebook out from a drawer under the kitchen sink, the one he kept during the Carter years, when he had to rewire half the barn himself just to keep the irrigation pump alive. The next morning, I called Cal. He's not a farmer. He's a mechanic who works part-time at the feed store, used to tune tractors with my dad before everything went digital. "You want to what?" he said when I told him. "Bypass the smart lock." "You trying to get sued?" "They already shut me out, Cal. What exactly are they going to do? Fire me twice?" He showed up that afternoon with a battered toolbox, a 1987 field manual, and a grin I hadn't seen in years. It took us 6 hours and 1 pot of coffee, but by sundown, the dryer roared back to life. Loud, inefficient, imperfect, and mine again. Word got around. Farmers talk. Even if they've signed Horizon's NDAs and drink their coffee out of branded thermoses, They still whisper across fences. 2 days later, I got a knock on my door. It was Javi Ortiz, whose family farms 800 acres just north of me. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You got your dryer working?" "I did." He stepped inside without waiting. Turns out, Horizon's automation program had backfired on him. Their AI seed monitoring system had mislabeled half his soy field as low-yield undergrowth and initiated an automated herbicide sweep. It killed 2 months of growth in one afternoon. They blamed a quote, calibration error, offered him a voucher. "I can't keep doing this," he said. You ever think about doing something else? Not leaving, but fighting back?" I poured him coffee. "Black, no sugar. Depends," I said. "You know how to weld?" His eyes narrowed. "You trying to start a militia or a farm?" "Something in between." Later that week, I opened a locked shed behind the barn. Inside were salvaged parts from old cedars, spare irrigation pipes, and something my grandfather called just-in-case metal. I didn't know what I was building yet, but I knew it wasn't just for me anymore. We started calling it the Patch. It wasn't a name I picked. It just stuck. Whispered by neighbors, scribbled in Javi's notebook, passed around on encrypted text threads between farmers, too scared to speak above a whisper. Claire's Patch, they called it, where things still grow without permission. By the end of the month, we had 6 people working it, not employees, partners. Some came at night. Some sent their sons under the pretense of borrowing tools. A few just dropped off heirloom seeds in paper envelopes marked with nothing but a first name. We planted rogue hybrid rows that defied Horizon's approved monoculture list. Beans beside barley, pollinators everywhere, wildflowers lining the fence line not because it looked nice, but because it brought bees. And the soil responded. It was like the land remembered how to breathe. Meanwhile, HorizonAg tried to course-correct. Their regional director held a town hall in the school gym. He wore a denim shirt with brand logos stitched on the sleeves and talked about, quote, tech-forward futures while reading from a tablet. Nobody clapped. Nobody booed, either. They just stared. They were tired. And scared. But something was shifting. That night, I got a call from a woman I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hollis, you still stubborn as a mule?" It was Sarah Bell, Ph.D., soil microbiologist, former USDA field researcher, and someone Horizon blackballed 3 years ago for publishing a study they didn't like. "Depends," I said. "You still good with fungi?" she laughed. "I've got data, Claire. And not just from your patch. Quiet sensors. Independent growers. The whole regenerative cycle is working. It's repeatable, but the journals won't touch it unless someone big backs it. I'm not big. Not yet. But you've got something more dangerous than size." "What's that?" "A following." She wasn't wrong. By July, we were running informal workshops in my backfield. Cal taught people how to fix machinery without service contracts. Javi showed them how to identify seed drift and detox soil that had been hit with residual herbicides. Sarah set up microscopes in the barn. We weren't just farming anymore. We were teaching. And Horizon didn't like that. The first drone showed up on a Thursday, hovered low over my fields for about 8 minutes, then zipped off toward the ridge. 2 days later, I found one of their, quote, compliance officers parked down the road, pretending to inspect soil with a test kit that had never been opened. I walked up to his window. He wouldn't look me in the eye. "You think you're not being watched?" he muttered. I know I'm being watched, I said. Question is, are you? Because here's the truth they never understood. You can control people with fear, but land only listens to care, and it remembers who gave it. It started with a warning letter. Not handwritten, not even signed, just a printed page slipped under my front door in the middle of the night. Unauthorized crop cultivation in violation of HorizonAg land use parameters may result in forfeiture of future agricultural permits. They couldn't pull my land. Not yet. I owned it outright. No lien, no lease. But they had other levers: permits, access to grain markets, fuel subsidies, insurance coverage, all of it designed to strangle slow. That week, 3 of our partner farms got flagged during routine inspections. Inspectors asking weird questions. Where'd you get this compost? Why aren't you using the recommended nitrogen blend? One of them even took soil samples without consent. Javi's cousin, Diego, lost his crop insurance overnight. No explanation. Just gone. That same day, our irrigation line was slashed. Not cut clean. Ripped. Deliberate. Cal and I worked until midnight, repairing it with spare tubing and borrowed clamps. He didn't say much. But when we finished, he lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I was here the night your dad installed the first drip line, he said. We buried it by hand. I nodded. They're scared, Claire, not of your farm, of your proof. He was right. The patch wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Healthier soil, bigger yields, fewer pests. And we were documenting everything. Sarah had cameras, sensors, bioassays. We were weeks away from publishing the first full data set in an independent journal, one that Horizon didn't control. That's when the reporter showed up. She said her name was Ellie. Said she worked for a small ag journal out of Des Moines, but I recognized the posture, the deliberate calm, the way she watched every corner of the farm like she was mapping something bigger. You're not here for a story, I said. No, she admitted. I'm here because someone leaked your drone footage. The story's already out. They just don't know it yet. She showed me a clip on her phone, aerial footage of the patch in full bloom. Wheat swaying beside legumes. Sunflowers pulling bees like magnets. Aerial overlays of soil health indexes. Satellite comparisons of adjacent horizon fields. It had already been shared over 40,000 times. They're calling it the Rebel Farm, she said. I laughed. Once. Is that what I am now? A rebel? She looked me straight in the eye. No, you're the first proof. That night, I sat alone in the barn, staring at the seed trays under Sarah's grow lights. We had 6 different species germinating in the same tray, all thriving, all natural, all impossible under Horizon's terms. The question wasn't if they'd come for us again. The question was, what would we do when they did? They came at dawn. 3 black SUVs, dust boiling behind them, pulled up right to the fence line like they owned it. HorizonAg's legal team, plus a man in mirrored sunglasses who didn't introduce himself. They didn't come to talk. They came with a cease and desist order. Unauthorized use of proprietary crop algorithms, interference with automated systems, defamation of corporate integrity. The list ran 2 pages long. I stood at the gate with Javi, Cal, and Sarah behind me. The man in sunglasses, probably ex-military, judging by the way he scanned the property, handed me the folder and said, "Comply or we escalate." I didn't answer right away. I just looked past him at the field. The patch shimmered in the early light. Pollinators buzzed. Roots ran deep beneath our feet. Every stalk, every blossom, every grain was data. Proof. Life. Not just growing, resisting. You don't own the sun, I said. Sunglasses didn't react. You've violated multiple proprietary growth models. You mean I farmed without you? That's not how partnerships work. I smiled. We're not partners. He started to speak, but I raised my hand. You brought a cease and desist. Let me show you our answer. I turned, and there, on the far side of the field, were the others. 27 trucks, 43 farmers, some old, some young. A few I hadn't spoken to in years. They came with their boots still muddy and their hats in their hands. Some wore seed company logos. Most didn't. They didn't chant. They didn't shout. They just stood, silent. Together. Ellie, the reporter, was already filming from the tree line. I held up the cease and desist. Then I fed it into the compost pile. The lawyers sputtered. Sunglasses stepped forward. You realize this is going to end badly for you. I didn't flinch. No, I said. This is how something new begins. They left without another word. 2 weeks later, Ellie's footage aired on 3 national outlets. The patch became a symbol, not of defiance, but of possibility. Regenerative networks began to form in 6 other counties. Sarah's study went viral in ag science circles. One small university offered her a full research grant with no oversight. And Horizon. Their stock dipped 12% after a congressional subcommittee requested records on their data handling practices. Transparency in agriculture became a political talking point. But me? I stayed right here, planting, teaching, listening. Because what I built wasn't a rebellion. Not really. It was a reminder. That land remembers how to heal. That food doesn't belong to markets. That systems break, but roots survive. One evening, a boy from down the road, maybe 10, asked me what I was growing now. I looked over the field. Not just at the crops, but at the people. At the future. Hope, I said, and it seems to like this soil just fine.